Why do we sabotage our own success? I can think of two very powerful reasons, both of which were a big story, a big part of my life. And I would venture to say at least one of them also affected you and still affects you. It affects everybody in some way or another. When I was overseas, when I was deployed overseas back in 08 and 09, I got the bug to start my own business. When I was overseas, I just did not like being under certain authorities, and I don't know, I just had this feeling that I needed to start something. I didn't want to be at the mercy of anybody when it came to what I could do, what I could spend my money on, how much money I could make, and so on. Keep in mind, it wasn't until 2014 that I was able to leave my full-time job and become a full-time entrepreneur. That said, while I was over there, I remember I would be at my computer, and after I had done my analysis, the intelligence analysis, I was an intelligence analyst, and after I had done my analysis and trends analysis, things like that about what was going on in Iraq and Kuwait and some parts of Iran and so on, I would have a lot of time on my hands to start watching videos. And this is where I started to really start consuming YouTube videos and things about starting a business, things about communicating and so on. And I remember even now, I used to watch this Gary Vaynerchuk video of him giving a speech, and it was at, I want to say it was like at a social media conference, and he said, there is no reason in 2008 for you to be doing something that you hate. Stop doing that. And it wasn't necessarily just that got to me. It did. But I saw him up there talking to people. And I'm thinking, I want to do that. I want to be up on stage inspiring people. I want to be a successful entrepreneur. I want to be someone who is going to be up there giving people the motivation and inspiration that they need to succeed. And I remember I would go to sleep and I would be thinking about being on stage. I would be thinking about being in front of hundreds or thousands of people. And at the time, as an intelligence analyst, I was forced, in a good way, to become a better public speaker by necessity, really. I was already in Toastmasters before I had deployed. I was in Toastmasters, which, if you don't know what Toastmasters is, there are a lot of clubs. If you're in the corporate world, Toastmasters is a fantastic way to learn how to speak and to be persuasive when you're speaking in front of people. Very, very good, super structured, and you learn to think on your feet, learn to give structured talks, and very just a very good system of learning how to speak. However, while deployed, every weekend, essentially, I had to, along with my team, get in front of at least, at minimum, a 1-star general. And so every week, up in front, talking, public speaking, and so on. And then I would go back during the week and I'd watch videos like the Gary Vaynerchuk video. There was always a part of me that would say, yeah, but you are not good enough to go up there and talk to that many people. What do you know? You don't own a business. You can't do anything. So when I finally got back home after being overseas, I started my business. I got out there, and the amount of self-sabotage that would happen was ginormous. I did not have enough money to... my first year of profit, I think I made max $200. I didn't know how to sell, didn't know how to do anything. But I still had that dream of being able to speak in front of people. Slowly but surely, I would go to these tweet ups. I would go to, back in the day, when you're on Twitter, you would have these things called tweet ups, and they were basically meetups that were all organized on Twitter. And they might be at a restaurant, or it might be at a bar, or it might be at a country club. And long and the short is, I met a lot of people through that. And through it, I started making more money. And then through that, I started getting speaking opportunities. Things would come out of the blue. We had a thing that we put together called Connect OC, which was just a bunch of like nonprofits bringing everyone together. It was at, I want to say it was like at a Marriott in Costa Mesa, and we had so many people there. And we even had, like, from the old American Gladiators TV show, we had Nitro was there, and we had put this together. And some of my friends and I put this together, and it was a huge hit. There were hundreds of people there, and for a brief moment, I got to speak in front of people. It wasn't that much. It was just it was maybe 5 minutes, if that. And then through that, I was able to speak at the Southern California, what is it, OCSMS, Orange County Social Media Summit. And that was in front of a couple hundred people, and I was on a panel, and I got to speak in front of that. And then a friend of mine, Ted, who was awesome, he invited me to go speak up north at a transportation conference. And what I had imagined started coming to pass. But at the same time, I would have the thing in the back of my head saying, yeah, but you're not good enough. You're not Gary Vaynerchuk. You're not going to make any money off of this. What are you going to do? What are you going to sell? What are you going to it's not going to really do anything for you, because you are a wannabe. You're just getting lucky, dude. You're getting lucky with all of this. And because I had those thoughts, and because I did not go back into my imagination, did not go back in and become, in my imagination, the person that I needed to be to grow exponentially from those opportunities, what do you think happened? I got up, I spoke, they loved it, and then business-wise, it would fizzle out. Because internally, I was that wannabe. I remember going and speaking at the Latino, Latism, the Latinos in Social Media Summit up north. And they had people from the White House there, hundreds and hundreds of people. And I'm speaking there, and people were like, man, you were amazing. That was so great. That what you said. I was on a panel, and I totally went against what the panel was saying, and but in a good way. And what came from it? Nothing business-wise, because yes, I got up and I did exactly what I had imagined in my head. I motivated people. I inspired people. I was able to give people that motivation and inspiration. But deep down, I wanted also that to affect my business so that I could grow my business, so I could get out from under the corporate world. But because I had that mentality that, okay, I embodied in my imagination speaking in front of people, inspiring people, and that happened multiple times. And these were just coming into my lap. But when I deep down also wanted to grow my entrepreneurship from it, because I did not become the person in my imagination, I would self-sabotage because the thermostat that I had when it came to making money would not allow me to go higher. Now, if I would have imagined what I imagined speaking, and then also imagined getting paid for that speaking, or imagine getting big contracts from that speaking, and imagined the exact same thing I did, but had money involved and felt what it's like to be that person who deserved that. Like one of my friends, Juan, he makes money off of his speaking, and he makes a lot of money off of it, given how hard it is to speak and make money. Because I never thought of it that way, it never happened. So I had to start rewiring my brain to think from the end to embody now what I wanted. And so then I started imagining when I'm speaking that I was making lots of money as well. That came later. That came far later once I started doing that. And I started speaking we work with my, my friend Paul. And he helped build ProSul in one of my businesses. And we started doing really, really well, money-wise, from the speaking. But it wasn't until I started really imagining and embodying that possibility that I started making money off of it. The thermostat, your thermostat, will only allow you to do what you are comfortable with. So in order to change that, you have to go in and change that thermostat. And you do that by imagining with all your five senses. This is why in the Bible, the parable of the talents, you have the 5 talents was given to one, 2 talents given to the next, and the 1 talent given to the last guy who didn't even use his talent. Those are the 5 senses. The first servant was able to use all of his 5 senses, and he doubled his investment. The second one was able to use 2 of his senses. He was able to double it. The last servant didn't want to use even one sense. He was too scared to use one of his senses to imagine what it would be like, and he went and hid it, and the master came back and ended up calling him a wicked servant. When you imagine now what you want to be in the first person, you start embodying that. You start changing the thermostat. Start messing with the thermostat. Sometimes you mess with the thermostat and it goes back down. Somebody comes in and you let somebody come and change back the thermostat back to where it was. You need to keep that thermostat just every night. Imagine what it would be like to have the thing that you want, to be the person you want to be. And you'll start to stop sabotaging. In fact, you'll start sabotaging your old self to success. You'll start to be like, I'm not doing that. I do that all the time. I was doing that all the time. I don't like doing that anymore. I'm going to do this. And you'll actually sabotage that old person, that old you, and move all the way to success in a good way. Sabotaging and breaking old habits and patterns and so on. And it happens little by little. And sometimes you don't realize it until a year later or 2 years later. And you're like, wait a minute. I'm doing exactly what I imagined. This is crazy, because you changed the thermostat. If you move your thermostat up, your life has no choice but to eventually go up. Just the way it works. But you do that by embodying and imagining right now in the first person with your as many senses as you can. Even if you can only use one sense, like hearing, smelling, eyesight, in your imagination, use it. I've had success stories from when I would just hear a voice note or hear a voicemail from my real estate agent, and things would happen. I'll share with that type of stuff later. So that's number one. Number two is you are already having your thermostat set, because these are correlated. You are taught throughout your life that never talk good about yourself. You need to be humble. You need to be humble. And this is not a Michelob. This is a Fit Aid. These are great. They're healthy caffeine. You need to be humble. And that means that you've got to talk shit on yourself all the time. Essentially. Imagine yourself having $1 million right now if you're not a millionaire. I remember when I started hiring people, and I started hiring people overseas, when I would spend a few $100s overseas for hired help, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. I can't believe I'm doing that. Like, man, I got to find something for them to do. I don't know how I'm going to have this, how this is going to work. Oh my gosh. And I would freak out over a couple $100s a month. Now, like, my payroll to people is, let's just say it's a lot. it's what, 5 figures now? 5 figures per week. 5 figures per week. And essentially it's crazy. It's a crazy amount to think of. When you have hundreds of thousands of dollars going out for payroll, for expenses, things like that, when years and years ago, when you thought $100, a couple $100 was a lot, you start to see why how much your thermostat governs what you do. But you're taught, whether it's through the school system, whether it's through your family, whether it's through religious circles, whether it's through politics, is that you need to be humble. You don't talk like I'm a millionaire when you're not. That's not reality. Never say to yourself or imagine yourself of being a billionaire. Even when I say that about being a billionaire, I'm like, no, dude. Like there's a block there. There's a block there. You're taught to be realistic. If you want to be a millionaire, you got to work for it. You need to go and do these things. Eventually you'll get like validation from the outside that you can be a millionaire. Go and look at any millionaire out there or billionaire, and for the most part, you're going to find people who believed that they were going to be that, and they became that. They first believed, like I love the Jim Carrey story where he shares how he wrote himself a check. I forgot what the amount was, but I want to say it was like $1 million or $100,000 or something like that. And he wrote himself a check and believed that that was going to be his salary. And he ended up becoming the, top comedian, paid millions and millions and millions of dollars. You'll see that happen with most successful people. It's not about getting good grades. It's not about getting these good college credentials. It's about what is going on in here. Who do you see yourself? Who are you? When you say, I am this thing. Once you do that, you start moving along the path to that thing. You start changing the thermostat. But we are taught, don't do that, because you're not being realistic. You're being delusional. You're being psychotic. You are being, like, it's funny. We have no problem with somebody saying, yeah, so, oh man, I'm just lazy, or yeah, just living paycheck to paycheck. We have no problem with people saying that. But we do have a problem with someone saying, I make more money every day. Every day I make more and more money than I did the day before. Are you really living paycheck to paycheck? Or is that because you're telling yourself you live paycheck to paycheck? If you really looked at what you spend, you'll start to see that you're literally just telling yourself that, and you're self-sabotaging. And the things that you're spending, that are the things that you're doing, reflect what you're actually thinking and who you are. But why is it so easy for us to say negative stuff about ourselves? Nobody will question you unless it's like very, very extreme. I hate myself. Even with that, people will be like, oh, don't say that. That's not, no, that's like, no, you're a great person. You're awesome. You're amazing. But if you say, I am wealthy, I am prosperous, I am full of joy and abundance, people kind of think you're a little nuts. People kind of think like, okay, that's nice. You have to start, like, why would you ever not tell yourself that you are freaking amazing? I know I didn't. And it wasn't until I was saying, I picture myself as amazing, picture myself as awesome, picture myself as rich, picture myself as having the best life ever, that everything started going in that direction. So, self-sabotaging comes on the fact that we're taught to from early age, so it's not really your fault. And it comes from the fact that our thermostat is set a certain way and we don't know how to change it. Easiest way to change it is to go into the theater of your mind, in the first person, start imagining yourself a certain way, start talking to yourself a certain way. Every day, like every night before I'm going to bed, and even during the day, I'm like, I am magnetic to money. I'm a money magnet. Money loves me. I am so good with money. I get to bring joy to people. I get to bring joy to everyone that I know. I get to go on amazing vacations. I get, I'm fit. I'm physically fit. I have a six-pack. I have huge muscles. I'm physically attractive. Men respect me. Women are attracted to me. And I use that for inspiration and motivation, and not for lust. And I use that for bringing joy to people. And I use that to bring a better life and help other people build better lives. And I use that for my family. I use that for my wife. I would use that for my kids. I use that so that they can be inspired by me. They can feel loved by me. Like, that's how I talk to myself now. Never did that before. I used to not do that before. And I used to beat myself down all the time. And guess what would happen? Bad stuff. Now, things get better and better and better. And even with obstacles, things are getting better and better and better and better. Start changing your thermostat. Start changing the way that you talk to yourself. Start changing, and really, who cares what other people think? Be in your car and talk to yourself like you are freaking awesome. Start telling yourself how amazing you are. Start telling yourself what you want. In the Bible, it says, my word goes out and will not return to me void. When you say, I am this, I am this, I am this, you are planting seeds that later you're going to harvest that will come to pass. And that is your thermostat. I am wealthy. I am successful. I am a good communicator. I am an inspirational speaker. I am whatever you want to be. Start changing your thermostat. Don't care about what other people think. Be in your car. Start talking to yourself in your car. Change that thermostat. Imagine yourself a certain way. Go to bed imagining yourself a certain way. And you'll start to stop self-sabotaging. And it really, really works. And then you pay attention to where you were, where you are now. You start to see that thermostat change. And then you do it again. And you do it again. And you do it again. And you do it again.